Take a look at Bitcoin pulling back today, but holding above that 36,000 level. Bitcoin, though, down 37% over the past month. And our resident Bitcoin baller, BK, says the worst of the recent sell-off could be over.
We want to continue the conversation. What's really driving these wild swings like we talked about over the weekend? We want to bring in Anthony Pompilano. He is a partner at Pomp Investments. So, Anthony, give us a little bit of insight into what you make of these wild swings, like today with the 9% drop, and then like the drops we've seen over the weekend only to rebound during the week. Give us some insight. If you want to play this, how do you do it, and how do you potentially be a little bit more careful around that volatility?
Jack Dorsey making some news on Bitcoin a few moments ago, sending shares of Square higher. He says Square is considering making a hardware wallet for Bitcoin. If we do it, we would build it entirely in the open, from software to hardware design, and in collaboration with the community. In a later tweet, he writes, "We don't want more passwords on Post-its." He's tweeting from Miami, where he's set to speak at Bitcoin 2021, which some are calling the biggest Bitcoin event in history.
Yeah, look, I think that we're talking about a volatile asset here. And so Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are frankly the last free market left, right? If you think of the stock market as a comparison, there's hours of operations, there's circuit breakers, there's quite a bit of manipulation from a monetary policy standpoint. And so when you start to look at these free markets that trade 24/7, 365, you're going to have volatility, and then obviously you trade in off hours for an equity market. And so I think that some of this is just people who are coming into the space understanding this actually isn't that volatile, right? Over this past week, we've had a 9% drawdown in a single day, but we also had a day where it was up 11%.
Elon Musk is a divisive figure, even though he is not physically present here. So already today, Michael Saylor of MicroStrategy, a company that obviously was among the first movers to add Bitcoin to their balance sheet last year before the rally began, appeared to take aim at some of Elon Musk's comments, saying that Bitcoin, by a long shot, was one of the most energy efficient assets in the history of the planet. Jack Dorsey, as you mentioned, also speaking at the event today, and he said that he thinks that Bitcoin is good for renewables and in effect is good for the environment. He also appeared to kind of take aim at Elon when he said that he thought that there was a consensus among notable figures in this space on that topic.
CNBC.com's Mackenzie Sigalos joins us live from Miami. I guess we should have expected some headlines, Mackenzie, but can you tell us what the vibe is there generally?
Yes, so thanks, Carl. 50,000 people are expected to head to the city of Miami for, as you said, what's being billed as the biggest Bitcoin event in history. Now, I'm told by event organizers that they capped out at 12,000 attendees, which means that the other 38,000 people that are here are really here for the very many side events that are happening. And let me tell you, there are a ton. I flew in yesterday afternoon and literally spent 8 hours traversing Miami, going from event to event. There are NFT gallery openings and events that are dedicated to BitClout, which is the first decentralized social network. So it's really been quite an experience.
And so volatility works both ways. You just have to understand that this asset is not like a traditional equity. And if you understand that and you want to go trade it, knock yourself out. But most people in the space who have done pretty well end up being long-term holders. Over 50% of all Bitcoin hasn't moved in the last 12 months. And I tend to think that most people start out as traders. They think they're going to get rich quick, but very quickly they realize that volatility can work against them and they become long-term holders.
I can't imagine how many business cards or virtual cards that you are collecting at this conference. But we've been talking about Elon Musk this morning with some controversial tweets, especially among the Bitcoin community. Are people talking about him? Do they, is he as divisive a figure down there, or have they sort of moved on?
Anthony, I got to ask you, because we're going into a long weekend, of course, and you're going to have get-togethers as people are starting to reemerge, and I feel like they're going to want to be talking about Dogecoin. I'm sorry, this just seems like so silly to me. It started as a joke, but it's a real currency. People are trading real money. What's going on in the action there? I mean, is this a real play that we should be considering if we're interested in crypto?
Yeah, again, it goes back to, are you trying to be a trader or are you trying to be a long-term investor, right? And so before I came on, I actually tweeted and said Berkshire Hathaway is a meme stock for the generation of people who grew up without cell phones. Today, we've got things like GameStop, AMC, Dogecoin, etc. And so meme stocks or meme assets aren't new. They've been around for a really long time. But if you go into those assets, you have to understand that they don't have the underlying fundamentals in many cases that you would have in something that's much more sound, like Bitcoin, that you can hold over a long period of time. And so if you want to go trade, knock yourself out. There's plenty of alpha to be generated by people who know what they're doing. But if you're not a trader, stop trying to trade. Just buy the assets, hold them over a long period of time. And I think that crypto is going to end up being kind of the judge, the jury, and the executioner for financial markets over the next decade. You're either going to be in crypto markets or you're going to be out of them. And if you're out of them, I think your returns are going to lag behind those that are in. And so that's ultimately going to be one of the intelligence tests for financial markets this decade, is how quickly do large asset managers get into the space, get exposure, and then just allow the tailwind to take over.
Oh no, he remains very much a divisive figure within the crypto community. And, people don't think that Elon Musk, or really anyone, not even governments, have the potential to stop Bitcoin. They see his messaging a few weeks ago about Bitcoin's environmental impact as very much a temporary setback. And, I asked people, are they worried about the recent sell-off? And the resounding answer is no. Everyone is hodling their Bitcoin, which means holding on for dear life.
Victoria, jump on in here.
Yeah, so I just have a quick question, Anthony. I mean, if someone had asked me 2 years ago about Bitcoin or crypto, I would have said it was a fad, right? And obviously it's not. It's here to stay. We even have central banks now looking at how they can do digital currency. But, we're long-term fundamental equity investors at Crossmark. And so we look at balance sheets, we look at business models, we look at their growth potential to see if we want to invest in something. How do I evaluate a crypto, a Bitcoin, and Ethereum to really do true fundamentals and see if it matches my portfolio?
So I'll talk about Bitcoin. That's what I spend the most time on. If you think of Bitcoin today, it's doing an annualized $6.5 trillion of on-chain transaction volume. It's about 50% of Visa's transaction volume. If you look at something like miner revenue, it's doing anywhere between $35 to $45 million a day in revenue to the people who run that network. And then when you just look over a decade at the compound annual growth rate, it's topping out somewhere between 150 and 200% depending on the price of Bitcoin in a given day. And so when you start to look at the long-term trends, you start to look at the underlying fundamentals. You also look at things like the hash rate continuing to hit all-time high after all-time high, active wallet addresses, new users signing up at the various brokerages. Every single fundamental points to this is not only something that is here to stay, but it's actually something that is still very early in its life cycle and has a lot of growth left to run. And so I think that you've got to be careful trying to compare it directly to, let's say, a SaaS business or something like that. But there's definitely things that you can look at, some of what I mentioned, that can give you a sense for just value and those underlying fundamentals and how they're going to increase the value over time.
So definitely coming up. Also in conversations that I'm having, I ask people, do they think that this setback from Elon Musk's comments has lasting power? And they think it's a blip.